even though we're far away from it here in Canada, MPs get kind of drawn into this too. And I have an example I just want to read. It was a letter that I received. Please save my life and my family. We are in a bad mental and physical condition, and I live in a secret place in a bad security situation. House-to-house searches have begun in different parts of Afghanistan, and it's possible for us to be captured and killed by the terrorist Taliban at any moment. I sent an email to your country's immigration office. Only one email came in, and no other confirmation email came to reassure me and my family. Please, please, please save me and my family. And that was sent directly to me. And so, Ms. Armstrong and Ms. Barr, you both gave some examples similar to this, and this is not an uncommon situation from what I can see. Ms. Armstrong, I saw you quoted as saying, "I'm not one who likes to criticize my government," and you just actually mentioned that. I think governing is a hard job, and they're in the business of trying to please most of the people all the time, and that's very tough to do. But what happened here was a neglect of duty, end quote. Just wondering if you could comment a bit more on that. How much of what we're seeing here is created by the Taliban versus how much of this is neglect of duty, and what are your thoughts on that?
You know, the Taliban are not going to help you to solve this problem. So I don't think, training them, teaching them, scaring them to death, promising them something isn't going to do it. We know how to fix this problem. And as all of us have told you, the same letter that you just read, it's the incompleted communication. It's leaving people hanging. It's having people write to us and say, "What's wrong with me? How come you're not?" We all know of a very delicate case, which I won't go into details of, but underage girls that we were trying to move out. It took Canada 3 months to get the paperwork done, and just enough time for the story to spread around and those girls to get caught by the Taliban. This is not acceptable for our country. We know how to do this well. And instead of even just blaming IRCC, we have to go in there and fix it. This is not acceptable for Canada.
Well, another question related to that. One of the things I've heard from different people is that there is risk that if we bring people from Afghanistan too quickly, we might get some terrorists in Canada, and that's a fear that people in Canada have. Can you comment on that, please?
You know what? You could say that with every single refugee program we've ever instigated. Why are they picking? The terrorists are running Afghanistan. They're not trying to come here. I think that is a very poor and weak and wrong conclusion to draw in the face of vulnerable people who need us to help them. I'm very sorry to hear that, and I've heard it many times.
And I agree with you, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because that would be my feeling as well.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Fro, one of the last things you said, listen to the women. That's really good advice at the best of times, and even here in Canada, I think all of us need to take that advice. So I appreciate that, and I will work very hard in my own life to use that advice. But I want to. I'm concerned about something, and it has to do with the facts. If you look at some facts. The government has promised 40,000 Afghan refugees, and Immigration Minister Sean Fraser told me last week at committee that we're at about 9,500 or so right now. So that's a little over, and that's in eight months, almost 9 months. That's a little over 1,000 a month. He also was quite happy to tell me that there were 10,000 Ukrainians have come to Canada in 3 months. So that's a much higher rate. And so my concern here, and I would like to get your opinion on this, is. Are we dealing with some racism issues in Canada? Is there Islamophobia? Why? And I know there's differences between people coming from Ukraine versus from Afghanistan, but do you think that some of that is at play with what's going on here? And maybe I'll start with Ms. Fro.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of operational level challenges to the lack of systems. So the system to respond to people, but at the same time, the third country phenomenon has been very difficult for us Afghans. So right now, I have my colleagues who have travel authorization to travel to Canada, but they do not have Pakistani visa, and they cannot obtain Pakistani visa. There is also political and security risks to many Afghans to travel to Pakistan. We have had members of the Afghans, security and other forces who were actually detained in Pakistan. So it's about the operationalization of this whole challenge. The third country is the major challenge, the system of response, and at the same time, it's also about like the lack of not just Pakistan, but also lack of any Afghans going to other countries. Like, look at the number of embassies open in Kabul. They cannot get visas, they cannot go, and now the Taliban have stopped women from traveling as well. So we don't have any hopes of getting to the third countries as well.
All right, thank you. Ms. Rizay, what is your thoughts on what I was asking about possible racism and Islamophobia?
I'm a Canadian citizen now. I'm very proud and I'm honored to be given the citizenship. I love it here very much. But it just points me to a great extent to see that racism exists, and it's oblivious to separate Afghans from the Ukrainians, given the history and the fact that we both have been the victims of the same troll here. Afghans share the pain of Ukrainian folks because Russian occupation did brutal things to Afghans. The only difference is that back then, because the world did not have social media or the internet connection, they could not advocate and they could not broadcast in 2 seconds what was going on. But now people in Ukrainian can. So yes, that is the fact what is happening. When here in Canada, we hear that human rights are universal. Actually, it's not. When it comes to the human rights, people pick and choose. It became a buffet for people to help some certain people and don't help certain people. And what we have been seeing, and I have been personally witnessing since August last year, that certain group of people, actually one group of people, have monopolized the IRCC. They have been only evacuating and focusing on the, as Wajma mentioned, male interpreters. As much as we would like to see those families seek refuge and find safety in Canada, it's also important to focus on female leaders, female athletes. Let's check the comparison. 9,000 people, 9,000 families versus 15 female athletes. That is unacceptable, and we need to open the category. We need to reach out because Canada gave us the definition of people at risk, high vulnerable people. People come from ethnic minorities, Hazara people, LGBTQ people, and women athletes. We need to help everybody at the same time because there's a space for everyone. There's a space for Ukrainian folks. There's a space for women leaders.
Ms. Rizai, another question on that. You mentioned that you had women with full ride scholarships, but the visas were denied. Were we talking about like 1 or 2 people, or like how many cases do we have of that?
I'm talking about 20 plus students at the moment. They have even received acceptance letter from very, very good reputable universities like Simon Fraser University's UBC, University of Calgary, but their visas have been denying on the grounds that they will not return home. What I would like to suggest to the Canadian government and IRCC is to start a pilot project for the student visas, because these are the youngest and the brightest people that will rebuild Afghanistan. Afghanistan relies on them. We need to invest in these people to equip them with the education, and they will become the leaders of tomorrow, because we know what's happening. We have been devastated what has been happening in my home country. My own brother was beaten by the Taliban. We are ethnic Hazara minority, so we have been the victim of the Taliban directly, and we want to see that change by the IRCC as soon as possible.
Thank you very much,
you.
Mr. Reddycop.